Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at the true engine room of the global climate transition, and that's climate tech startups.
Right, and this isn't just about, green marketing slogans.
Not at all. We're diving into the deep science, the physical hardware, and, frankly, the massive capital it takes to pivot the whole world economy off of carbon.
Mm.
And our sources, they lay out the stakes with some pretty shocking clarity. This is not a problem for the future anymore.
No, it's here.
Climate risks are accelerating way faster than anyone predicted. We are getting very, very close to that critical 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold.
And the financial consequences are already hitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking global insurance losses topping $130 billion per year.
And you, as a listener, you feel that directly. That translates into huge hikes for your home insurance or, in some places, coverage just disappearing entirely.
The plan is writing us a bill, and it's due now.
And that urgency, that profound sense of urgency creates what our sources call a critical speed gap.
A speed gap? What do they mean by that?
Well, think about governments or these huge legacy corporations, the utilities, the heavy industry players.
Right.
They're just encumbered by decades of, risk-averse culture, incredibly long decision cycles, and just massive existing infrastructure. They can't move at the speed we need.
They're too big to pivot quickly.
Exactly. But startups, they are designed from the ground up to fill that gap. They are the innovation engine because they can experiment faster, they can deploy rapidly, and they can push those frontier solutions that a big company just can't risk.
And that's where the money is going.
That's precisely why global investment in climate tech has just soared. It's surpassed $100 billion annually now.
Yeah.
The money is following the speed.
And let's be really clear about what we mean by climate tech. This isn't just another app for optimizing deliveries.
No, absolutely not. Unlike traditional software, climate technology is, well, it's complex. It blends deep science. We're talking materials, science, chemistry, physics.
With actual physical infrastructure.
Right. And policy navigation and cutting-edge AI. It's hard tech. But that complexity is what creates these high-impact pathways for real systemic change.
So our mission today is to unpack the strategic role these startups are playing. We're going to look beyond just cutting emissions and see how they're influencing everything from the energy grid to even national security. So let's start with the momentum. If this is such hard tech, why now? Why is this the moment these technologies can actually scale?
The foundational shift is really the acceleration of global policy momentum. In the past, policy was, often just aspirational.
A lot of talk.
A lot of talk. Now it's money. For the first time, major governments are creating these strategic incentives that act as a massive, tangible tailwind. It de-risks those high-cost early phases of hardware deployment.
Can you give us some concrete examples?
Sure.
Because that financial tailwind, that's what changes the entire equation.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA. It's funneling $369 billion specifically into clean tech incentives and manufacturing.
And that's just the U.S.
Right. You've got the EU's Green Deal industrial plan matching that ambition. And globally, the COP28 commitment to triple renewable capacity by 2030. These are not soft targets anymore. They are capital signals.
So that's the key takeaway here. This is a fundamental shift. Policy is now guaranteeing adoption and is providing the financial stability you need for these massive commercial pilots.
It changes the entire risk calculus for the VCs who are backing this hardware.
They know there's a buyer, or at least a subsidy, waiting on the other side.
Precisely. And that strategic foundation, that lets us shift our focus to the really specific high-impact areas where these startups are concentrating their firepower.
Okay.
If we connect this to the big picture, they are deliberately targeting the highest emitting sectors, the industries that account for, well over 90% of global emissions?
So they're going after the industries that are, let's say, hardest to love.
Yeah.
The most stubborn ones.
Exactly. We're talking about breakthroughs in energy, of course, things like next-gen geothermal, nuclear microreactors, but also critically, those hard-to-abate industry sectors.
Like cement and steel.
Right. Cement alone produces about 8% of global CO2. And steel. And we can't ignore agriculture, where innovations in vertical farming or alternative proteins are making supply chains way less resource-intensive.
Traditional companies just couldn't take on the tech risk needed to crack those sectors.
They couldn't prioritize it.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, especially with the energy transition. We've moved beyond just making solar panels a little more efficient. Startups are now driving the breakthroughs in the enabling technologies, the stuff that makes a fully renewable grid possible, 2047.
Yes.
Let's take next-gen storage. The list of innovations here is fascinating. We can forget standard lithium-ion for a second. We're seeing whole new battery chemistries like solid-state or sodium-ion.
Which use cheaper, more abundant materials and offer much greater energy density.
But the real game changer for the grid seems to be these massive grid-scale flow batteries that can hold power for days, not just a few hours.
And that ties directly into next-gen power. So if flow batteries solve the storage duration problem, then small modular reactors, or SMRs, they solve the deployment problem for nuclear power.
How so? What's the connection?
Well, SMRs let you scale down a nuclear reactor to, say, the size of a shipping container. That dramatically speeds up the permitting and the site selection compared to building a massive traditional nuclear plant.
So it's a decentralized modular approach.
Exactly. That plus the frontier research into fusion, it just fundamentally accelerates the timeline for getting carbon-free baseload power online. And all of this is underpinned by AI-optimized grid balancing to make the whole system react intelligently.
So that's the mitigation side.
Yes. But while mitigation cutting emissions is critical, we have to also focus on adaptation. Climate resilience is just as vital, and startups are providing solutions that protect infrastructure and lives right now.
That makes perfect sense. If the floods and fires are already getting worse, we need high-tech shock absorbers. What are some of the most powerful examples of this adaptation tech?
It's the ability to predict and detect in real time. We're seeing these incredibly advanced flood prediction models that can give a community hours, maybe even days of warning.
Okay.
And sophisticated wildfire detection systems that use constellations of satellites, sensors, drones, all to spot a small fire instantly.
Which cuts down response time.
Massively. And then you have the physical stuff, like localized defense systems for vulnerable coastlines. These resilience solutions provide that necessary buffer against these accelerating climate events.
Which brings us naturally to the intelligence layer. None of this scale, none of this speed is really possible without a deep integration of data and computation.
Absolutely. AI is the ultimate force multiplier here. It's not just a tool, it's an accelerator of discovery across the entire board.
In what specific ways?
We see it in everything from generating highly accurate predictive models for extreme weather to, optimizing renewable generation. But maybe the most transformational use is in materials discovery. AI can rapidly prototype and test new green hydrogen catalysts or new solvents for carbon capture in a tiny fraction of the time it would take a traditional lab.
And in agriculture.
It's driving precision farming, analyzing soil composition, managing irrigation, forecasting yields, literally down to the square meter.
And this data layer, it's also transforming the credibility of something really important.
Yeah.
The carbon markets. It's doing that through better measurement, reporting, and verification, or MRV.
Yes. And for carbon credits to actually be valuable, for these markets to reach their potential, they have to be trustworthy.
Which has been the problem.
Historically, trust has been the weakest link. That's why startups are leveraging tech like blockchain for transparent carbon credit registries and using satellite monitoring for real-time emissions detection.
So this MRV layer is the foundation.
It's the foundation for creating credible, global, and highly scalable markets.
It takes the guesswork out. You move carbon accounting from an annual, maybe fudged spreadsheet to a near real-time verifiable asset. That is what gives investors confidence.
It is. So let's connect the dots. What does this all mean for the bigger economy and for national security?
Right.
This isn't just about saving the planet. This is about leading the next era of industrial growth.
How big is that economically?
On the economic front, climate tech is not a constraint. It is poised to be the new engine of global economic growth. Our sources project this to be just a staggering $12 to $14 trillion global market by 2050.
So this is the next industrial revolution.
It is. We're moving beyond the digital age into the age of sustainable infrastructure. The regions that invest in and foster these startups now are positioning themselves to dominate the future.
And that economic shift, it connects directly to geopolitics, doesn't it? If the next revolution is green, then the question is, who controls the technology?
Precisely. Clean energy is now unequivocally a geopolitical asset. Climate tech fundamentally reduces a country's reliance on volatile fossil fuel imports.
Which strengthens your supply chain resilience.
It means you don't have to worry about a geopolitical rival turning off your gas supply in the middle of winter.
And that conversation changed dramatically after the Russia-Ukraine crisis.
It really did. Energy independence is national security. Countries are now positioning themselves so aggressively in this next energy race to make sure they control the manufacturing and the IP behind these key clean technologies.
And beyond the big geopolitical power plays, we can't overlook the huge societal benefits that come along with this.
No, things like dramatically improved air and water quality and enhanced food security globally.
The sources make it clear. The public health cost of doing nothing, the cost of pollution, of extreme weather trauma, it far, far exceeds the cost of this innovation.
The investment is effectively a net positive for public health. But we have to be realistic. It is not an easy road. We have to acknowledge the significant hurdles these startups face. It's often called the valley of death.
Okay.
Unlike a pure software company that can scale with minimal capital, climate tech needs massive upfront capital expenditure, CapEx.
They need physical hardware, factories.
Exactly. Manufacturing facilities, supply chains, long pilot deployments that can take years. All of this means a much, much longer time to value than a typical tech startup.
But how do they bridge that gap? Going from a successful lab prototype to a commercially deployed, mass-produced product is where most of them fail. Is it just about money, or is it policy?
It's a combination. They really struggle with navigating fragmented policy environments. Inconsistent subsidies from one region to the next, really complicated permitting that can slow things down by years.
Regulatory bottlenecks.
Right, you need a stable environment to justify building that first giant factory.
And then there's the talent scarcity. This field requires such specialized expertise that just isn't widely available.
You're not kidding. Material scientists who understand novel battery chemistries, specialized carbon analysts, AI experts who can work with industrial data. The global talent pool is desperately struggling to keep up with demand.
But these challenges are actually defining the next wave of innovation.
Yes. Looking to the future, we see three huge areas of breakthrough. The first one is convergence.
Convergence of what?
We expect AI-accelerated breakthroughs in core material science to just dramatically change manufacturing. AI is speeding up the discovery of next-gen green hydrogen catalysts, more efficient carbon capture materials, innovative bioplastics. We're moving from slow, costly laboratory time to simulation time.
Accelerating the timeline for new hardware. That's incredible. And we're also seeing innovation tailored for what the sources call new geographies, places where the climate demands really unique solutions.
Exactly. Think about Arctic cold climate computing and energy solutions, or massive solar expansions in deserts.
Or things I'd never even considered, like ocean-based carbon removal systems and huge floating solar farms.
The world's extreme environments are forcing the creation of highly resilient, novel tech.
And the final piece.
The monetization layer. Climate fintech. Startups are building the core infrastructure for the future financial world. That includes transparent carbon credit exchanges, green asset tokenization, and climate-linked insurance products that dynamically adjust based on risk.
And the forecasts there are huge.
Enormous! These carbon markets alone could reach over $1 trillion by 2037. They are literally building the global financial plumbing for the low-carbon world.
What a deep dive into this material. So to synthesize everything we've covered, the central strategic role of climate tech startups is just undeniable. They're absolutely indispensable. They provide speed where governments are slow. They take on risks where large corporations hesitate. And they provide that crucial intelligence layer where climate risks are accelerating. They are the builders of this next, more resilient era.
Absolutely. And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to explore. Consider this emerging model of government as a platform for climate innovation. This is where cities and nations actively create public innovation sandboxes. They use green procurement policies to become the first buyer for a new, risky technology, and they directly partner with startups instead of just regulating them.
So the question is?
The question is, what does that kind of deep-scaled public-private collaboration look like when you measure it on a global scale? And how fast could that truly accelerate our transition?